Project for today is this John Deere L130. I took this on trade when I sold another mower to a guy. I don't know too much about it other than it sat outside in his woods for quite a few years, he said, and he didn't really say why he parked it, so hopefully the trans is good and everything, but the motor turns over, that's a good sign, and I'm sure we'll have to go through the fuel system. All the fuel lines and stuff feel rock hard. I'll have to replace those. I'm sure it'll need a battery, and the deck needs a little bit of work. The blades didn't look too terrible. They probably can be sharpened. I'll get you in a stand and we'll get to it. First thing I'm going to do is try to take this hood off. Unplug the lights and then pull this spring off. And just kind of pull out on the hinges. I guess there's a spring on both sides. And we can get to the air cleaner. Looks like that was already, or I pulled the whole bolt out of there. And looks like we need a couple of 10 millimeters and can pop that off of there. Breather hose off. Unplug that wire. Looks like we have like a bread tie or something in here holding the choke linkage. That's not supposed to be there. Not sure why that was there. Careful not to lose that little plastic retainer. I'll just let the linkage sit there for now. And you have to take this bar off here. Otherwise you can't get the carb past it. It's kind of a weird design. Alright, instead of taking this bar off down here, I think I'm going to try to just take the anti-backfire solenoid off. So I'm going to pull that wire down through so we can spin it. And I'll take this gas line off. It's pretty stiff. I'll have to replace that. And this is the 3/4 inch wrench to get this off. Make sure that you don't lose that sealing washer. As you can see, that's pretty bad. That solenoid is stuck completely. We'll have to see if we can break that free. We're still hitting on this bar here, which I think, I haven't done one of these in a long time, so I don't remember all the stuff you have to take off. I think if we unscrew it here, maybe I can tilt it enough to get it out of the way, but I gotta take the throttle linkage off down here first. Might have been easier to just take that bar off. You can't get in here. Oh, I got it off of there. Spring in the linkage. I'll stay on the carb till we get it out of there. I'll grab something to take those screws out with. And we got a little ground wire up there, just up on top here. We'll just put the screw back in there so we don't lose it. I was able to pull that linkage out of there. And the spring. Just remember that curved part goes up towards the carburetor, and then that 90-degree bend like that goes down. It's kind of the same way with the choke linkage, the 90-degree bend like that goes up, and the curved part like that goes onto the actual carburetor. It looks like our gasket stayed in there. Alright, we can get this on the bench and start tearing it apart and see how bad this one is. Alright, got it set up on the bench here. Let's take 4 screws out for the float bowl first. Oh, there's some corrosion in there. Doesn't look too terrible. I think that solenoid was the biggest problem that's stuck. I have that soaking right now. See if we can break it loose. And get this needle off of there. That actually looks okay too. I don't have a rebuild kit or anything for this, so I'm just going to try to clean it up and see if it works. The float's actually pretty clean. There's quite a bit of junk in there. So under of the jet here that you can take out, and then underneath there there's another jet down in there you can't really see. One doesn't look too bad. A bigger screwdriver for that one. That one doesn't look too bad either. Still throw them in. We'll throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and let everything cook. Trying to get that tube out of the middle. You don't have to always take that out, but if it does come out easily, it's a good idea just to make sure all the little holes on the sides aren't plugged and you can see down through the middle of it, which this one you can. Now when you take these adjustment screws out, always run them back and count the turns. So you go half, 1, 1/2, about 1 3/4 turns is what we'll set it at. Let me put it back together. Oh, that's really clean in there. We'll see if we can take this top cover off. I don't think there's too much underneath that one, but I don't want to wreck the gasket since we don't have one. Yeah, that stayed okay. You got all the little passageways up here you want to make sure are clean. If this one looks... Oh, there's a little bit of junk in there. The ultrasonic should take care of that. And that's about all you have to take apart on this one. Some of them have a... I think it's on the float bowl actually. They'll have a little diaphragm valve here. This one doesn't have it. The holes aren't drilled for it. But that diaphragm in there, that'd be an important thing to check too if that has that on the side. I'll blow these off with some air and then we'll get it cooking and I'll bring you back when I get it back together. So I got all the stuff out of the ultrasonic cleaner. This actually cleaned up pretty good. Most of it did. This solenoid, shut-off solenoid, you can pull these apart. That center comes out and then there's a spring down in there. But there's still some rust and stuff on there, so it's good to clean all that stuff off of there, and then I'll show you quick how I test them too. So I've got the ground clamp from a jumper pack connected to the base, and then I've got a positive connected to the end of the wire that comes out of it. I've got it in the down position now. My jumper pack squeals if it's on off, so it's gonna make a noise when I turn it off, but you'll watch the... Oop, I just lost my connection. So you watch it, when I turn it off, it'll pop up. It went up a little bit too high, but when it sucks it down like that, so you can kind of see how it works. It's basically just an electromagnet in there that sucks it down. You just want to make sure that when you push down on it, it comes back up And then you don't want it to be stuck in the up either. You want it to make sure it sucks it down when you turn power onto it. Just something to look out for on these, especially these are metal, so they rust together, and that's exactly at the bottom of the carb, so you get all the moisture and stuff sits down in there, and that's usually one of the problems on this style carburetor. This one had water in the fuel tank, so I had this disconnected right here, and I blew air backwards through this line to flush any water out that might be in the line. And then I came back here and I went back to the tank and I used a grabber like that with the little claw on the end. You just take rags like that and hook them to the end and swipe them around in there until you stop getting any moisture on them. You can see this one's got pretty clean. It's a little bit damp in there still, but I'll let that air out now. But you have to get the water out of there, otherwise it doesn't matter how good you clean the carburetor, it's just gonna suck a bunch of water in there again. And that's one nice thing too about putting a clear filter on it. You'll be able to see if there's water in that, especially these paper ones. They'll kind of hold back the water a little bit. I'm getting the carburetor put back on there. I have a new gas line and fuel filter on it. I didn't do the line all the way back underneath. This one doesn't feel too bad, but this one up here was hard as a rock, and then this line right here was okay too. So I'll get back to getting this put back together, and we'll be almost ready to try firing it up for the first time. Now I'll check the oil quick before we try and start it. That looks like it's pretty good. I'll change it after we run it. I already put some fuel in it. A bunch of water came out of that seat. You can hear that solenoid clicking when I turn the key on. That's a good sign. I'll go over to the other side so we can see if it's sucking fuel. Well, it's sucking fuel. It might take a little bit to fill up the carb. I have the parking brake on too, so make sure it doesn't run away. One popped off pretty fast. It kind of sounds like it might only be running on one cylinder. Looks like we got some acorns packed in there. I'm gonna pull the plugs and check for spark. That's pretty corroded there. That might be part of the problem. I'll get that set up and bring you back. So I just did a quick test on the exhaust, and you can tell this side wasn't firing at all. This side over here, that's pretty hot. So we must not have spark on this side, I'm guessing. Which it does look like there might have been a mouse nest up. Oh yeah, that would be the problem. Yeah, mouse chewed our spark plug wire off. I'll have to pull that cover off then, and we'll replace that coil. You can't usually replace the spark plug wires on these. A bunch of 8mm bolts holding this cover on. I'll have to get something else. And then there's a couple of 10s on the fuel pump. That is nasty. I'd say that they had quite a little mouse house in here. I'll get that cleaned out of there, and I gotta go see if I can find a coil. I think I have an engine for parts that I can steal that off of. Luckily I had a parts machine out here. I'm going to steal this coil. This plug wire looks good. This one has a broken rod and then it seized up on one cylinder, so eventually I might put a motor in this one. It's still in pretty good shape. I'll get that tore off of there and we'll put it on the other one and continue on. You can see this wire to the voltage regulator got chewed pretty good, and then they just chewed the spark plug wire right off the end. So there's not much fixing that. I got some of the stuff out, but I'm going to run it outside and blow it out good with some compressed air once we get the new coil on here, and I'll fix this wire too. I'll show you how we'll do that. I get this old coil pulled off of here. It's so rusty, I was a little worried about these bolts breaking off. That one came loose. Well, they both came loose. Kind of surprising. Well, that's out of the way. We'll cut this wire, and I was going to put a couple of heat shrink sleeves over the top of it and a butt connector. It looked like it was most of the extent of the mouse damage. The other side looked okay. I'll grab a butt connector and a couple of pieces of shrink tube. Got 2 pieces of shrink tubing on there. I'll crimp this on. This is also a heat shrink butt connector, so we'll get that sealed up too. That slid in like that. I just use a little butane torch to, you can use a heat gun too, but this is just faster. Looks pretty good. And we'll let that cool a little bit, and then I'm gonna put that coil on. I'll show you how you gap those. It's got good compression. And for gapping these, I just use an old business card. Works about the best. You can use a feeler gauge or something, but the business card's usually almost exactly the gap you need, so. Just turn it, get the card out of there. Oh, I got a little too tight. Or I didn't get that one tight enough, maybe it slid. There we go. Now we should have decent spark on this side. I'll get some other stuff put back together, and then we'll probably run it outside and blow all that mouse junk out of there with the air hose and continue on. Yeah, let's start blowing it out of here. That's probably pretty good. It's a lot better than it was. There's still a few acorns in there I'll grab out with the pliers or something. Well, we got it back in here and on the lift, and I'm gonna finish putting the cover back on and everything, and new spark plugs in it, and then I'll bring you back. I got it all put back together. I just gotta used battery I threw in there. Hopefully that's got some juice in it still. I didn't have a new one to put in it. Still got to change the oil, and it's got one front tire and one rear tire that go flat pretty fast, so I'm going to put tubes in those. But I just want to fire it up and see if the transmission is okay in it before I go that far. Let's see if it'll go with this battery. Well, I guess not. We'll have to get the jumper pack. Alright, we'll try this again. Well, the transmission seemed to work good. It didn't whine or anything, even at lower RPM. It does seem like it's idling kind of fast. I might have to look into that. Adjust that idling a little bit. Other than that, it seems like it runs pretty good. I'll get the oil changed on it now and put them tubes in the tires, and then we can probably go take it for a test drive, try it out, and then I gotta sharpen the blades. I think I already have a buyer for this one, so I was gonna paint the deck up and stuff, but I don't know if I'll do that or not. He doesn't seem like he cares if it's got some rust on it, so I'll bring you back when I get the stuff to take the tires off of it, and let's hopefully these rear tires come off of here. Some of them are rusted pretty solid, so that can be difficult getting those off. That oil looks pretty dirty. I don't think it's had a change in quite a while. We'll run and grab an oil filter for it. We'll get that off of there. If you don't have one of these flexible funnels, I recommend getting one if you do your own oil changes. It makes for a lot less mess, especially with these engines that have the oil filter set back like that. It ends up draining all over. The oil filter, make sure you put a film of oil on there too, otherwise they get stuck really bad to get them off the next time. While that oil's draining, I'll jack up the back corner, try to get that tire off of there. That should be good enough. Get this little hubcap off there. These can be pretty stiff. I usually end up wrecking them, getting them off, because they're just kind of rotten when they get older. The newer ones, they peel right off of there, but that one was too stiff. We weren't going to get that off without wrecking it. Oh, that dust got me. And then you got a little C-clip in there. I just take a little flathead screwdriver and pop them off. I don't really need a special tool for those kind. This is looking pretty rusty, I don't know. That one might give us some trouble getting off. I'm going to grab a hammer and maybe hit on the back side of it. I sprayed some lube in there and got a deadbolt hammer here. That's moving. I gotta set the deck down. Get past the wheel on the deck. There we go. You can see how rusty that was. That lube got in there pretty far though. That's usually the trick to these things. You gotta get the lube to go past that key. Some of them are just pretty much welded on. You end up having to just either change the tire with it on the tractor or end up sacrificing the rim to get it off, because they can be really stuck in there. And then if you pound too hard, you'll pull this shaft right out of the transmission and you'll end up ruining it. So you gotta be careful how hard you hit on it. I didn't hit it that hard, but it was still a 48 ounce dead blow, but I wasn't reefing on it that hard. So I just got one of these cheaper Harbor Freight tire changers that bolted to a pallet. The bead breaker part works pretty good. I don't usually use the top half. I just end up doing the lawnmower ones on the floor, these bigger ones. There, got the bead broke on both sides. I'll go get a tube for it and we'll continue on. And if you look, you can see there's tire slime coming out of this. That stuff, the only time I ever use tire slime is if I'm never gonna change that tire again. Because you take this tire off now, the tire slime failed. You go to put a tube in it and you gotta clean all that junk out of there, and it just makes a complete mess. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get into there. So you can see the slime down in there. If I go to put a tube in that without removing that slime, as soon as you air it up, it's gonna squirt out of every place of the tire. So you have to try to clean the majority of that out of there, and then you get all slimy trying to put the tube in there. If you bring this to a shop, they're usually gonna charge you extra for cleanup and everything. Otherwise, they're just gonna put a whole new tire on it, and you don't get the option for a tube then if they have slime in them like that. So just something to keep in mind. It's easy to grab the bottle of slime, but putting a tube in it is a more permanent fix, or just a whole new tire at that point. Well, I got the tube in there. I gotta clean up this rim a little bit, and then I gotta clean up that axle, the rust off of there. And I'll do the tube in the front tire and fill it up with oil yet. I'll wire brush this axle. I'll put some anti-seize on that so it comes off easier if you gotta take it off again ever. And just use this Permatex anti-seize. The gold stuff works a little bit better than this stuff, but I happen to have a jar of this, so. Grease would work too, but This stuff really gets on you if you stains your hands if you get it on you. The grease isn't too much better, but this stuff's really bad. Slide our rim back on here. Make sure the key gets locked in there when you do that. I've seen a few where the key slips out and then when you go to turn it, it just slips on the axle and people think they have a transmission problem when it's just the key. Just put that on there like that. Squeeze her down with the pliers. And I think I have another one of these hubcaps since that one was pretty well shot. And that'll do it for that tire. I'll do the front one and continue on. A quick trick I'll show you on these hubcaps here. I had another one for the back, so I didn't care if I wrecked it, but this one I didn't wreck. But it's so stiff I can't get it put back on. So take a heat gun and we'll heat it up. And usually they get pliable enough you can take them off with or put them back on with the heat gun. Let's try that. There we go. Let's snap back on there. That's just one trick. You can do it to get them off too if you want, but I had a better one for the other side, so I didn't do that. But well, I got it all put back together and greased up. Let's take it for a test drive and see how it does. Everything seemed to work good on it. The deck is a little bit noisy, but probably needs a new belt put in there at some point. Other than that, I think it's good to go. I didn't record the blade sharpening. You can go back to the Poland Pro Pushmower video I did. I go into depth a little bit more on how to sharpen them and how to correctly install them. But other than that, that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.